A lot of time has passed since I drove my last Nissan. It was a Nissan Qashqai 10 years ago, to be more exact. And I thought it may be time to revisit the brand. Why not do that by testing the Nissan Ariya 87 e4orce? This has been my daily driver for a week now, and it's time for a full review. Welcome to It's Only Electric. Let's start. Ariya plays in the popular segment called mid-size SUVs with a total length of 4.6 meters and a wheelbase of almost 2.8 meters. And as you see, the hood is really short because the car is built on a fully electric platform. That leads to a potentially great interior space. We're going to have a look at that soon. Some facts: e4orce stands for four-wheel drive, meaning that it has two electric motors, one on the front axle, one at the rear. Combined output 301 horsepower, 600 newton meters of torque, the 0 to 100 in 5.7 seconds with a top speed of 200 kilometers per hour. So pretty good specs there. It comes with two different battery packs. This one has the big pack with a net capacity of 87 kilowatt hours and a gross capacity of 91 kilowatt hours. NMC battery. And the total range, the WLTP range of this all-wheel drive version is 498 kilometers. That's not that great for such a big battery pack, so it's probably not the most efficient car on the market, but I'm going to test that in my next video about the Ariya, so stay tuned for that. The charge port is placed at the right front fender, works perfectly fine on Tesla supercharger stations, and that's a good thing. Top speed when it comes to fast charging, 130 kilowatts, CCS2 connector, charge time 10 to 80%, around 40 minutes. When it comes to home charging, normal specs, 11 kilowatts and 3-phase support. I really appreciate the frontal design of the Ariya, especially in this white and black combination. Really creates some good contrasts and lifts the front of the car. As you see here, very slim headlights and daylight running lights going down like a flash formation. Hidden frontal camera for the park assistance system just underneath the big Nissan logo. Closed grille as always, so a very electric and futuristic frontal design. Park sensors, and here some air ventilation to direct some of the airflow through the wheel arches in the front. The e4orce Evolve trim comes with 20-inch rims, 255/45 all around. 5-spoke design with some plastic covers on top to optimize the airflow, so fairly covered and not much openings for redirecting or braking the airflow. The rear end design also goes very well hand in hand with the total shape of the car, with all these angular design elements, and the big air spoiler on top of the roof really makes the car look more sporty and hopefully also more aerodynamic. And when it comes to the taillights, also a uni taillight design with a logo underneath the transparent plastics. So externally, I think this really is one of the better looking fully electric SUVs on the market in this segment currently. Let's have a look at some practical aspects. A powered liftgate with a total boot capacity of 415 liters. If you go for the front-wheel drive version, you will gain an extra 50 liters of boot capacity. Some extra storage here underneath. Cables possible to store to the left. To the right, there is the Bose subwoofer placed. A frontal compartment for storing things like the tire repair kits, etc. Some deep pockets here at the sides. Foldable seats split into two, 60/40. Unfortunately, there is no ski latch. For you guys that have watched me for a while now, you know that this is not the things I like. But the good thing though is that it is possible to remove, and you don't need to leave it behind. You can just put it here. It actually fits. It is possible to equip it with a tow hitch with a total tow capacity of 1.5 tons. The rear seats can actually be angled in two different positions. So we have one cargo position that's a bit more straight up, and then one more relaxed version, more leaned backwards. So two positions depending on who's sitting at the rear and how much load you have. That's all about the practical aspects. Let's move on and check out the back seat. Let's have a look at the space and comfort here at the rear. And as you see, there is plenty of room actually. The seating part, the back bench is not that comfortable. I mean, it's soft and nice. heated seats, but not that much of a thigh support, but that goes for almost all electric vehicles I have tried so far, since I'm fairly tall, 193 centimeters tall or 6'4". As you see, plenty of room for my knees, and also possible to fit my feet underneath the front seat. That's good. And the front seat is adjusted after my driving position, so I'm actually sitting behind myself. When it comes to the headroom, also decent. It could have been a bit more, but still comfortable, no touching, plenty of space. And the seat is now adjusted in the most laid back position. I can adjust it a bit more upwards. This is the straighter position, still a comfortable position actually, and still room for my head. The car is equipped with a openable sunroof. I always prefer sunroofs or panoramic glass roofs. It's a lot more convenient and nice to travel in the backseat if you have a glass roof. Central compartment is equipped with 2 buttons, one for each seat heating, so we can heat the seats in 3 different levels. On top of that, 2 air ventilations, one for each passenger, manually adjustable, 1 USB-C port and 1 USB-A port. And this compartment is actually possible to slide forward and backward depending on the driver in the front. And when it comes to the materials, the door, soft touch material here at the top, soft touch this part too, with the Alcantara inlay, aluminum lever for opening the door, window opener, some ambient lighting accents, and also a speaker grill here at the rear. Hard plastic from the halfway and down. So exactly the same materials as in the front that we're going to look at very soon. So all in all, the rear seat offers decent space, good comfort and nice materials. Let's jump into the front. How's the door sound? That's nice. Framed doors, the very solid sound. Let's try again. High quality, that sounds really good. Let's start with the materials here at the front. Hard plastics at the top with a built-in head-up display, and underneath that or in front of that, Alcantara covered dashboard with some nice stitching. Good feel to that. Integrated screens, 2 screens actually, 1 instrument cluster, 12.3 inch, and a media screen or central screen, the same size. Underneath that area you have the ventilation. So this nice bar goes through the whole front of the dashboard, and some parts of it are actually manual adjustable air ventilations. The good touch and feel to those. Here in the middle, just underneath the central screen, you have some media controls, so the volume control knob for adjusting the volume and turning on and off the system. Hazard lights, and to the right of the knob, forward and reverse button for media controls, and a wood-looking panel just underneath that air ventilation part that includes a power on and power off button. Nicely placed, but really unnecessary if you ask me. Creates a bit of a hassle because I always tend to forget to turn the car off when leaving the car. I get stuck in between, so it starts beeping whilst I'm leaving the car and I need to go back and actually turn that off. And the most annoying thing with that is that when I have my car key in the left pocket, the car doesn't sense the key and says that the key is outside the car. Long press the button to turn the car off. So I need to long press it for 2 or 3 seconds to be able to turn the car off. And that's time that I don't want to waste. Let me put it that way. To the right of that power button, there is a control element for the climate system, nicely integrated into the dashboard. Looks really stunning if you ask me. The controls are not equally good. I mean, the looks are really perfect, but the real use case of it, I mean the touch, the sensing of the buttons is not perfect. It's really hard to find the buttons whilst driving, and the feedback is not really that great. It feels a bit flimsy somehow. Underneath that, there is a hidden storage compartment. This is really unique. You open it by pressing the central armrest here. That one actually doubles as a tray. I don't know, maybe you want to put a hamburger here when you eat. There is also a storage compartment, so you can slide that top lid away and store things like bottles or other things, cables, because it's fairly deep and good storage here. Then let's close that again. To the right of that one, you have a traditional glove box, fairly deep with a lot of storage. And that's about all storage you have here in the front. I mean, you have the door pockets at the sides. They are fairly deep and with a lot of space. Here in the mid section, the mid compartment, there is not a lot of space. I mean, 2 hidden cup holders, fairly small but adaptable. And most further to the rear, you have a cheap charger and a very small compartment of storage. Not much to talk about. Very limited amount of storage here in the central compartment. Another cool gimmick is that you can actually move this compartment forward and backward. So this comes in handy when you want to have some extra storage here at the front, or if someone is sitting at the central space spot at the rear, then you move it as long forward as possible to give the rear passengers some extra room. Not sure if it's that practical or if it's more a gimmick. Underneath that compartment you have 2 USB ports, 1 USB-C and 1 USB-A, and a 12-volt outlet next to those, and a pocket for your phone. Modern and sleek looking design here from Nissan, and I'm really impressed, and I like when the manufacturers really utilize the pros of a real electric platform. I mean, you clearly see that there is no tunnel here in between the 2 seats at the front, neither in the rear. But they have also really utilized that in a different way. I mean, it's totally open, so you really need to be careful because, for instance, don't play with tennis balls here in the front because they may end up rolling in under the braking pedal. Very dangerous. So take it easy with the things you put at the floor here in the front. And that good material flow actually continues into the door sides. Soft touch materials here at the top, fake leatherette. The Alcantara inlay continues, also padded with nice stitching that goes and follows the dashboard in a very good way. In between those 2 materials there is a built-in, very settled ambient lighting. Looks really good during the night. The aluminum latch for opening the door, 2 memory slots for the driver's seat actually, and underneath that the control unit in black piano color for controlling the side view mirrors, all the power windows, and also child lock protection, etc. Padded armrest, a bit lowly placed, so I have a hard time using it because this one is higher than that one, which makes me end up sitting a bit strange. Not a optimal driving position for me. Steering wheel, tidy, 2-spoke design with a mix between haptic buttons and physical buttons. And the good thing is that you can actually feel all the buttons with your fingers without looking at the actual steering wheel. So that's good. So fairly easy to get used to. To the left you have the media controls and also the control for adjusting the information on the screen. To the right you have the self-driving capability functions like activating the autopilot function, setting the distance to the cars in front of you, and also voice control and phone control. And the drive mode selector, I didn't mention that earlier, is actually placed here on top of the mid console. Also very easy to use, nothing strange, and you get used to it very fast, and it's conveniently placed while resting your arm here. Maybe a bit low compared to the armrest. Let's just have a quick look at the screens and the menu systems, and this is one of the parts where the car actually feels a bit dated. I don't have any general thing to complain about. I think the functions are there, but it's sometimes a bit hard to navigate. But let me just start with the right screen here, especially the right screen, because the resolution looks a bit too low. Actually on both screens, but it looks even lower on the right side. There is a fair amount of distance to the actual screen. You feel that when you look at the screen. It looks a bit foggy or unfocused, and that adds to the feeling of a low resolution. This one looks better because the plastics here seems to be thinner on top of that specific screen. The other thing I have that I want to a bit complain about is that you get some great information here in the instrument cluster about like driving information or consumption statistics, etc. I can't find the same information on this screen. So there is information on the left screen that's not present on the right screen. And I am actually missing some functions here. And sometimes it's hard for me to understand what I change to the left and what I actually change to the right. Touch sensor screen, kind of a dashboard layout where you put your favorites on each screen actually, so we can have several screens with several different setups. That's good, all fine and dandy. To the left you have a quick control panel for navigating, for instance, to the climate control screen, home, navigation, media, and that's nice. That's really necessary and makes your life as a driver a bit easier. And it's also very convenient to place close to the steering wheel. When it comes to the climate control, it has nice features like auto steering wheel heating, auto seat heating, also equipped with heating and cooling here at the front and heating at the rear, as I mentioned earlier. So you can also automatically make the car adjust seat temperature depending on the cabin and outside temperature. So now it feels that it is really hot inside and it automatically activates the cooling function, and it activates it on the, sets it to the second level. Let's turn it off because it's a bit noisy. One thing that I have noticed is that it doesn't seem to turn off the right climate control to save energy. For instance, when I did a range test, it still activates the right side even if I drive on eco mode. Doesn't sense if someone is sitting in the right seat or not. It still keeps that climate zone active. And that sounds a bit strange to me. That should be a good way of saving energy and to extending the range. Not the quickest, it's a bit sluggy, and the color schemas and the graphics seems a bit outdated. But I know that Nissan actually is working with Android Automotive, the gas implementation, and hopefully that will come really soon even for the Nissan Ariya. It's time to take a drive and look at the driving dynamics, the different drive modes, the suspension, the silence in the cabin. How about the seats? I haven't mentioned those. Let's go. Let's start talking about the seats. These seats are, as I said, heated and ventilated in 3 different levels. Goes both ways, and they are somewhere in between comfort and sport, I would say. There is a certain amount of padding on the rear parts for your back, not that much padding on the seating part, not for me at least. I'm a bit too big to fit into those, so they are actually hurting a bit, so not perfectly adjusted for me. Otherwise, the seating position is good. There is plenty of room here in the front. One thing that's a bit disappointing is the angling of the thigh support. First off, there is no extendable thigh support on this version. And secondly, when I adjust it, it doesn't go up enough. So the angle is not enough for giving me the perfect support. Otherwise, comfortable seats, doesn't give me any pain in the back. They are good and they are good looking, and I like the addition of ventilation that really helps during hot days like this. On the Evolve version, they are fully powered, so you adjust everything with the buttons here at the side. Also a traditional fully electric lumbar support, adjustable in 2 axes. And when it comes to the headrests, they are only adjustable height-wise, not depth. Let's have a look at the drive modes. There is a couple of drive modes, and the drive mode selector is placed here at the mid armrest or in front of the mid armrest. And downside is that it is very hard to get used to, because there's no possibility to feel where the button is placed, no contours at all, so you really need to look to find it, and they are a bit hard to press. But the drive modes as such, there's 4 different ones: Sport, Standard, Eco and Snow. Very obvious ones. There is no individual drive mode, so you can't adjust it after your own preferences. You need to go with the fixed drive modes. Let's start with the sport mode. What you feel is that it adds some kind of a roaring artificial sound to the driving experience to enhance the sportiness of the car. But what you feel is that it still doesn't give you that immediate punch in the back, and the accelerator or the power is more programmed to progressively add on before it hits 100% output. So when I floor it, as I did now, it takes like 1.5-2 seconds before you get all the output. So it's not that immediate as in a couple of other brands. More towards comfort, I would say. That also goes for the suspension. The suspension is comfortable, especially on highways. Can be a bit too soft, a bit too boaty. You know the feeling. More optimized for comfort, obviously. So if you like that, this may be a good car for you. So when it comes to the body roll, there's plenty of body roll. And I'm not even forcing or pushing it. So expect comfort, not sportiness, even when you're driving in sport mode, because it doesn't have an active suspension. That's good to know. Let's put it into eco mode instead of toggling to standard, because that's the biggest delta between sport and eco, to feel the obvious difference. So it is a bit more sluggish, and it takes more time to pick up the pace and the output power on eco than on sport mode. So there is an obvious difference, but almost feels a bit sluggish, but after a while it picks up and feels better. And one thing with the accelerator is that it has two positions. So when you press it, there is kind of a threshold, kind of a floor where your foot stop, and if you don't force it, it stays there. You need to press it extra to get the full 100% output. Otherwise it stays around like 80, and feels like it is kind of a physical stop or a added friction to the accelerator at that moment. So if you press it like 80%, it stops. Then you force it again, and you kind of do a kick down. Let's talk about the regenerative braking. And there is really a limited amount of settings for that. Actually, only two. One called nothing, and one called e-pedal. E-pedal engages more regenerative braking. That's active now. You activate that by pressing a small button here at the same place as the drive mode selector. This one lights up on the instrument cluster, so e-pedal is active. And what it does is that it applies more stable and more progressive regenerative braking than it does without. It is fairly aggressive. I think it's good because it's linear, and e-pedal mode adds regenerative braking that's more aggressive than without. So this is not the coasting mode. This is the closest you can come to a one-pedal driving in the Nissan Ariya. It doesn't have one-pedal driving, and I'm almost whining about that. I'm not going to do that in this video. You know what I think about cars that's missing one-pedal driving. But this is the closest you can come, and when I let go of the accelerator, it's a good linear addition of recuperation, but it doesn't come to a full stop, so it keeps rolling around 10 kilometers per hour. And when you deactivate e-pedal, it's coasting. So with e-pedal off, it's a coasting mode, so it just keeps rolling without any recuperation at all. Activate it, and it brakes fairly aggressive. One thing that impresses me is the comfort and the silence in the cabin. This is one of the more silent cars I have tested so far. I haven't measured the noise level yet. That's another video, so stay tuned for that one. But the interior noise, the insulation, and the soft suspension really creates a nice and calm feeling in the Nissan Ariya. And it's running with double pane windows, so insulation glass, acoustic glass, both here in the front and at the rear. And front windshield also thick with built-in heating. That's good for cold countries. I think it's time for the last moment when it comes to the driving, because we have talked about suspension, the drive modes, regenerative braking, the silence and comfort in the cabin, the seats. Now it's time to do a bit of a stress test of the suspension and see how it behaves on top of a bit of a broken road with potholes, etc. on gravel. Let's do that and activate standard mode and see if that does any difference. So now entering that road. Let's see how it behaves. Yeah, as you hear, now passing over some bumps. Some bigger bumps now. No missed sounds actually, and it feels like it behaves as expected. Not that harsh when it comes to the speed bumps, and I'm trying to drive through them to make it as uncomfortable as possible. Let's see. As you hear, it's a bit more noisy, but still a lot better than the Mercedes EQA I tested last week. That's the last car I have in as a reference. But not that bad at all. I mean, it doesn't ride on an air suspension, so I think this is possibly as good as it can get in this class and for this price point. Okay, so I have been driving this car for almost a week now, driving it a lot in different conditions, and I must say this is a very comfortable and silent car. I have really enjoyed my days with the car, and as I said earlier in the beginning of the video, this is the first Nissan I drive for a long while now, and yeah, I must say that this is a great car. When it comes to the price, this specific car costs 670,000 Swedish crowns or 65,000 euros. That's not extremely cheap, but this is one of the most expensive versions of the car. The big battery pack, 87. e4orce, four-wheel drive, Evolve, the highest equipment line. So a lot of technical equipment and comfort. So it's about as expensive as it gets. The entry-level price though is really exciting. They have recently lowered the price, so the entry-level price, this car, is 460,000 Swedish crowns. So the difference is almost 200,000, 44,000 euros. So big difference and a really attractive entry-level price. Then you get front-wheel drive version with the small battery pack. And not the same equipment, of course, but still attractive. But I would probably go for the big battery pack in the front-wheel drive version with the advanced package. That feels like kind of a sweet spot because you get a lot for the money, decent equipment, good range, because the front-wheel drive version is more efficient than this one. This is not that efficient, but all in all, my experience is that this is a great car. The level of comfort, the silence in the cabin, the equipment, the exterior looks, that's nice. The interior, they have really tried to do something different, and despite being a mid-size SUV and not that long, I mean 4.6 meters is not humongous, but you still have good backseat comfort and space. I mean, I fit behind myself, so it is fairly practical. One downside is the boot. You don't have foldable seats. You have foldable seats, but not split into three parts. No midsection or ski latch. Another thing is that it doesn't have rails, so limited amount of practicality, I would say. But if you don't care about rails and you don't fold the midsection that often, you will probably be fine, because you can still add a towage with a tow capacity of 1.5 tons, so still a practical car. So I'm really excited and interested to hear your views on the Nissan Ariya. I mean, now with the new entry-level price, is it a bargain? I think it might be, really. This is a great car, and it would be nice to hear your thoughts. So please share them in the comments below and let us have a good discussion about that. Otherwise, I think this is all for today. I hope this video could bring you some good information about the Nissan Ariya, and as I always say, engage, like, subscribe. very important for me to be able to grow the channel and stay electric. Thank you for watching. Speak to you soon.